Good morning. How's it going, everybody? Just wait for a couple people to jump on. How are you doing this morning? Hope everybody's having a bright, sunshiny day wherever you're joining from around the world. Thank you so much for spending the time to come on here. We're just gonna wait for a couple more people to join and get the morning started. Got a few more people joining. If you want to go ahead and just put some comments down, tell where you're joining from, and yeah, tell where you're joining from and what your favorite thing about stand-up paddling is. We'll just wait for a few more people to jump on here, and then we'll get it going. Alrighty, well, good morning. How's it going? Fiona Wylde here. I am wonderful. We have a couple people joining from Taiwan. Thanks so much for staying up in the evening and jumping on board. That's wonderful. Yeah, so good morning or good evening, wherever you're joining. My name is Fiona Wylde, and I am a Dream Team rider for Starboard stand-up paddling. I have been fortunate enough to be paddling with Starboard for 6 years now, and it's been incredible. It's been a crazy ride. We've had so many fun adventures and yeah, so many victories together as a team, and just been able to go all over the world and share the passion for stand-up paddling. So I couldn't be happier to be here on board with Starboard, and it's cool, I mean, COVID has definitely changed everything, but at the same time, being able to do more things like this and, reach out to one another and have great chats and, yeah, get connected, especially as people are starting to get back on the water. It's wonderful. So anyways, a little bit about me. I live in Hood River, Oregon, and that's actually where I'm sitting right now. I live between Hood River, Oregon and Los Barriles in Mexico. So if anybody has any questions in Spanish or wants to chat in Spanish, we can go ahead and yeah, have a conversation in Spanish as well. But yeah, so I started stand-up paddling when I was about 14 through the local stand-up paddle center here. Big Winds is the local shop that carries windsurf, kite, now wing, stand-up paddle boards. They even have e-bikes. And yeah, I was able to, so it was 10 years ago, and this is going to be the 11th season. The owner of Big Winds created a kids team for stand-up paddling, and I was one of the first 4 members of the kids team, the first year it ever started. And we were all a bunch of windsurfers, and Steve Gates, the owner of Big Winds, was like, I'm gonna teach you how to stand-up paddle. And we're like, great, okay, that's cool. Like, we all windsurf, we like to have fun on the water when it's windy. Stand-up paddling's a little funny. Anyways, Steve was always very motivated. He told us that we were going to train at 6:30 in the morning, twice a week. And a bunch of teenagers were like, whoa, no, 6:30 in the morning, are you crazy? And anyways, so we did it. We started training 6:30 in the morning, twice a week. And that was my introduction to stand-up paddling. I learned about dedication. I learned about racing. I learned about working on a team, and just really getting yourself out there in any conditions. Sometimes it would be super windy. We have really windy conditions here, and even it could be super windy at 6:30 in the morning in Hood River. So that was kind of my introduction to stand-up paddling, and I learned to fall in love with the sport because it wasn't just a singular sport. Like, you could go out on the water and go and compete and go and paddle and push yourself regardless of the conditions. And it didn't matter where, it could be super windy, it could be super glassy, big waves, and that was the joy that I got from stand-up paddling. And that was the joy that I got from the introduction to stand-up paddling here in Hood River. And now that program, the Big Winds Junior Elite team, I'm actually the coach of that program now, and we're going to be going into our 11th year of the program. So it's pretty cool to see the whole thing come full circle and to be able to work with a bunch of different kids who are excited to get in the water and have fun with all that. So that was kind of like my introduction to stand-up paddling, and it's cool because it's my introduction to stand-up paddling, and it's still part of my everyday stand-up paddling life. So it's been quite a big full circle. We have Chris joining from South Africa, a couple more people, Asia, Thailand, Brazil, from Korea, South Korea. This is really fun. Thank you guys all so much for joining. It was wonderful to go through and see, so many of your questions coming through on Instagram. And yeah, we're gonna dive a little bit more into chat a little bit more about the stand-up program that I got going, IQ, winging, all these other different water sports that are coming up that are now part of my everyday training, and then we're going to get to some of your questions. So next things next, how did stand-up paddling kind of take over my life? Some people joining from Sweden. It's wonderful. So yeah, the next question is, how did stand-up paddling take over my life when really I was competing a lot in windsurfing? So when I was younger, my family has grown up, we were a very water-based family. My parents both knew how to sail. My mom had a marine canvas business, and she still does build dodgers for sailboats. And both my parents met on the docks, and sailboats were a very, very central part of their life. And when I came along, they sold the big sailboat and went windsurfing. And so our family sport growing up was windsurfing. I would, after school, go down to the beach, sit on the beach, watch my parents windsurf, and not long afterwards, I was sailing. So I absolutely love sailing. My dad started windsurf racing when I was young, and I was like, I want to do that. My goal was to compete in their local Gorge Cup series before I was 10, and when I was 10, I did compete in one race. It was a slalom race, and I would sail along, hooked in the harness, in the foot straps, get to the buoy, crash, and then uphaul my sail, go the other way, crash. But I did it. So that was pretty fun, and I absolutely loved, the competition aspect of it, getting on the water, pushing myself. And so I started competing in windsurf racing. I did a bunch of different local windsurf race events here in Hood River. I did a couple national championships, San Francisco, also back here in Hood River. And that was my first introduction to competition and windsurfing, and I loved it. And that spiraled into windsurf wave sailing. Now, I had never windsurf wave sailed. I had never surfed. I didn't grow up in the waves because I live here in Hood River, and we have a lot of wind and we have a lot of swell, but we don't actually have breaking waves. So that was kind of a funny transition because the American Windsurfing Tour was starting up, and I was going to be 12 at the time. And I was like, I want to do that, but I had never been in waves before. So I was lucky enough, my family encouraged me to go down to Pistol River, and basically I spent 4 days getting trashed around in shore break and pushed back on the beach and then walking back upwind, and it was freezing cold and super windy. But that was my introduction, and for some reason, I loved it. I'm not exactly sure why, but whether it was the challenge, also the people there were so encouraging of me to keep going out, keep trying. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep going. So I started competing in windsurf wave sailing, and that led me through 3 years of competing on the American Windsurfing Tour, and then I competed in one PWA event, the Aloha Classic on Maui. And I had spent a lot of time at that point in the water, and I had spent a lot of time just pushing myself in stand-up paddling and pushing myself in windsurfing and wave sailing and learning how to stand-up surf. And at that World Cup event, I actually got second place. So it was kind of a crazy thing to go from not knowing anything about wave sailing to, getting into the sport, learning, progressing, and then a couple years later, getting second place to my now teammate, Ibai Moreno. And that was just like, crazy. And, I was so excited. I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, I had just got second place at one of the biggest, most competitive windsurf wave sailing events in the world. And because of my result there, I actually won the junior windsurf wave sailing world title for girls. So that was pretty exciting moment. And at the same time, I was starting to get to the same level in stand-up paddling. I was getting on all sorts of different podiums. Made podium at Battle of the Paddle. I had won the Gorge Paddle Challenge here. And about a month after that, so I was 17, I got an email from Starboard, and they wanted to have me on their team. And I was like, what? Dream! This is incredible. This is everything that I had hoped for, wanted, and was happening. And I was reading the email, and it, kept saying Starboard stand-up paddling, Starboard stand-up paddling, and I was on this high from winning a youth world title in windsurfing and competing in windsurfing, and I was like, yes, absolutely, I'm 100% in. And then I said one comment, and I was like, what about windsurfing? They were like, oh yeah, keep windsurfing, that's awesome, but this is a contract for stand-up paddling. And I was kind of like, okay. I mean, I could do both, and I love stand-up paddling, and Starboard would be my ultimate dream company to work with, ride for, compete with, all that, because they make, race boards, windsurf gear, and at the best, highest level. So it worked for everything I was doing. But it was funny because it was a big shift for me. So for the first 2 years, when I was competing and riding for Starboard, I was actually still competing in stand-up paddling and windsurfing. But about 2 years into that, I realized that I really needed to dedicate a lot of time to stand-up paddling. And, competing in stand-up paddle racing, competing in stand-up paddle surfing, that was already a lot of events all at once. And so balancing all that, windsurfing kind of got put a little bit on the back burner for me. The passion is still there, but I just simply did not have enough, weeks, hours in the year to be able to compete in all of it. So that was kind of like how the transition into stand-up paddling took over my life, and how, thankfully to Starboard, I was able to go and have a career and travel all over the world and be able to compete at the highest level with the best equipment and really push myself to be the best athlete that I want to be. And for me, that's, Starboard is the one who gave me the opportunity to do that. So it's been a really, really cool friendship. It's been a really cool relationship with everybody that works there. And not just in terms of the competition side, but working with everybody on designing boards and paddles and making sure that they're climate positive, and, all the things that matter to me as a person and the values there are carried along in the brand. So yeah, it's been a wonderful ride. And there's a pretty cool, exciting new chapter that's coming into it as well. So I'm not sure how many of you know here, and I see amazing people. We have Canada, we have Rockaway Beach, New York, Annapolis, desde Las Canarias, Germany. Thank you guys so much for joining in. This is really cool. It's wonderful to read through here and see where everybody's from, and so much excitement. It's really cool. So, the stand-up paddling has been my focus for the last 6 years professionally with Starboard. There's been so many different ups and downs. Even before I really got the chance to race for Starboard professionally, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And that was a massive shocker because I was so ready, so excited to go out in the world, not only show Starboard, but myself, that I had earned this position on the dream team and, could race my hardest and be one of the best athletes. And basically 2 months into my first season, I was diagnosed with type 1. We still don't know why or how that all happens. But regardless, I have had to adjust to not having a pancreas that functions properly. So I take insulin through pens or an insulin pump. I wear a device called the Dexcom, so I can track my blood sugars throughout the day and night and just track everything on my phone. And, it's been a massive adjustment. Now I've had diabetes for almost 6 years, so it's kind of, it's part of everyday life. Don't necessarily remember how things were before, but it's been a massive shift. And, that coincided for me at the beginning of my professional career. And so that was the biggest mindset challenge I've had from the beginning, because it was like, all right, you have this dream, you have this opportunity, you want to go do something, and yet now your body doesn't work, and you're a professional athlete and your biggest tool is your body. So in terms of, figuring out a few things, overcoming that, how do you plan for type 1, all of those details that come into dealing with something that could be potentially dangerous, especially out in the water, took a long time. And, well, it did and it didn't. It took a long time for me to process, and every single day it's a new process, but when it came to what I wanted to do professionally, that was super clear for me. And so the next year, 2016, I went out and won the women's racing world title for stand-up paddling. So just kind of taking a look here, we have some fun questions that, all right, so we have one question about IQ foiling. What got you into IQ foiling, and how is this helping your stand-up paddling? Cool. So I'm not sure how many people of you know what IQ foiling is, but it is the new Olympic class for windsurfing. It's going to be in the 2024 Paris Olympics and then the 2028 LA Olympics. So currently they're racing in RSX, and this 2020 Olympics is going to be the last year that they'll be racing on RSX. And the cool thing about the new discipline, IQ foiling, is it's what it says it is. It's foiling. So it's a one design foil class. So women are racing on an 8-meter sail and men are racing on a 9-meter sail. And we have the same foil, same board, all of that. So I hadn't been competing in windsurfing for quite a long time. I was missing it, wanting to get back in the sport. I had been foiling a bunch. I had been, winging and windsurf foiling just for fun here and there. And when I saw that the IQ foil was going to be the official Olympic class, and I saw that Starboard had been the ones to present this class and got this class into the Olympics, I was like, that's something that I would really like to try. And so I got some gear, I started training on it. I got to go to Miami this winter to work with the U.S. sailing team and learn about windsurf racing. Last time I windsurf raced, I was a tiny, tiny little kid. And so it's been a whole process of learning a new sport. There's so much tactics involved. And the biggest thing that I can draw between stand-up paddling and the windsurfing is the mindset of being an athlete. That's something that can transition across any sport. When you're learning a new sport, I've always done a lot of sports, but this has been a really big learning experience for me because it's difficult to learn a new sport. It's different muscles, it's different training times, your schedule is all changed and adjusted, but at the same time, you can apply the same mindset to a new sport and run with it. So it's been wonderful for me. I have a bunch of IQ events and stand-up paddle events happening this summer and this spring, and I'm looking forward to trying to do all of it, which sometimes is a lot easier said than done, but we'll make it happen. Alrighty, so we have a couple other questions here coming in. Here, let's talk, since we're talking about training, how many hours per day, week do you spend on the hour training, water hours, and gym hours? So I do a mix of both. I spend time, I actually spend less time in a gym than I do on the track. So I go to the high school track here in Hood River and do a bunch of dryland stuff. It's a lot of it's some sprints, a lot of plyometrics, push-ups, all the things that you would do to build strength using your own body muscles. And now we're catering them both with stand-up paddling and windsurfing in mind. So I go to the track 2 to 3 days a week, depending on the wind schedule of the week. And then I'm on the water. The water part is pretty much basically a minimum 5 days a week, and I try and do 3 days on and 1 day off. So it normally ends up being 6 days a week, and within that week I have 1 day off, but I alternate or I do both. So yesterday I did not go to the track, for example, but I went stand-up paddling and then windsurf foiling. So if I'm gonna go stand-up paddling and windsurf foiling, I don't do the track, but if I go to the track, then I'll go stand-up paddling in the afternoon or windsurf foiling in the afternoon. So it kind of all balances out just like that. We had one question. We had one question in Spanish. ¿Quién es tu entrenador en SUP? Y yo tengo un coach desde muchos años y nosotros estamos entrenando juntos. Él fue mi entrenador cuando yo corrí por mi escuela en middle school, como en la secundaria. Y nosotros entrenamos juntos y él me ayuda cuando nos vamos al track para correr y para tener todas las cosas de plyometrics y todo así. Entonces, él y cuando yo termine con la prepa y con todo así, estoy viajando muchas veces. Nosotros no podemos entrenar juntos, pero cada vez cuando estoy aquí en Oregón, nosotros vamos al track 2 o 3 días cada semana para entrenar y para preparar si son más fuertes cuando me entra en el agua. Entonces, yeah, just a little bit in English. I work with a trainer who is my trainer for my middle school cross country team, and so he's the one who helps me with my training on the track, and we have a very long relationship since middle school is a little while ago, but it's been a really good one. Couple other questions in. How many races did you win since you started to practice the sport? Greeting from Argentina. Cool, thank you. I'm not exactly sure since I started the sport, but 2019, so the year right before the pandemic, was my best year. I was competing in stand-up paddle surfing and stand-up paddle racing. It was the year that I won the Euro Tour. I won the APP World Tour Sunset Beach Pro. I won the Paris Crossing at the end of the year. And so that year was pretty much non-stop competition. I competed in 24 events and I won 12 of them. So I won half and then was on the podium. I actually only did not make it on the podium for 2 of the events that year. So 22 out of 24 events I was on the podium for. So that was my most incredible year. The year that I have kind of learned the most and pushed myself the hardest and honestly had the most fun. It was the year that I started studying. I decided I did not go to university straight out of high school, and so I decided to go back and start studying at university. I go to Oregon State, and I study geography and geospatial science. And 2019 was the year that I started studying, and it was also the year that I started having the best season ever, having fun, enjoying it, absolutely like the most. And I think that says a lot about mindset and being able to focus 100% on your sport and then take a step back and focus 100% on your studies. And dividing time is really important, especially when it's, go, 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 go all the time. So let's see. We have any questions in here? As you're joining the live feed, if you have any questions, want them to shout out, just put your questions in the comments. Daniel Kern was wondering if I'm coming to Germany or Europe again, and absolutely, I really hope so. it's been difficult this year with COVID. I actually haven't been to Europe for about 15 months now. As American, travel restrictions have been very difficult, but it's very optimistic and it looks like we're going to be able to travel again. So I'm looking forward to getting over to Europe for the Euro tour starting in June. And yeah, hopefully Germany again soon. I absolutely love it. So thank you so much. Oh, cool. We have another type 1 paddler. It's awesome. Go for it. Keep paddling. Just bring your sugar with you and have fun there out in the water. Got some people joining from Indonesia. It's wonderful. It's so fun to connect with you guys, from all over the world. And I know everybody's in different time zones. So thank you so much. All right. So we're gonna we have a couple questions about winging here. Winging has been a very big part of my life, especially during, the quarantines and, when we were just stuck at home and couldn't travel very much and definitely couldn't compete. Winging has been really fun to take on. I got to use new free wing, the free wing V2, which Starboard and Airrush have worked together, and it's really, really fun. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out some of the videos that I put together at Starboard posted, you can go and take a look at them. And, winging is really one of the things that's cool because you can do it in any type of winging. It's not just the gnarliest jumps that you can do, or it's not just, the longest you can pump on a swell. You can just hold onto your wing and have fun and go back and forth and jibe and tack, and just being out there is wonderful. So that kind of leads us into the question. Opinions on winging. Can it be done on a SUP? And/or is foiling hard to pick up? And so that was Eva who asked that question. And, winging can be done anyway. If you have not had much experience foiling, I would suggest going on, going on a Starboard inflatable, or just more of like a cruiser stand-up paddleboard to get used to the wing, to learn how the wing flies in the wind. That's the most important thing to begin with, is just learning how to fly the wing, learning where to put your hands and all that. And then afterwards, you can go ahead and add the foil together. If you don't know how to foil, it's a really good idea to learn how to foil behind a boat, so you can get the feeling of how the foil actually works, what it's like when you're flying up above the water. That's always like a bit nerve-wracking at the beginning. And then you can put the two together. So yeah, it's, like learning a new sport, it takes everything. It takes a lot of different, it takes mostly patience would be the biggest thing, but it's not too difficult to learn. And if anybody wants to try winging, I highly suggest it. It's really fun, as you can see by the global phenomena. Yeah, it's not a hoax. It's actually really fun to go wing. Wow, we have a bunch of people who are type 1 joining in. This is really cool. It'd be so fun to go paddling with everybody and get together. Some people from Chile. Hola, Pierre. All right, what's your advice to a new paddler just bought a Starboard All-Star to get into the sport? Awesome! That's wonderful. The All-Star is by far my favorite board. Yeah, I've paddled this board in many different conditions. But for somebody who's just getting new into the sport, you've gotten yourself a wonderful board. My advice would be to learn a bit about some technique, so you don't end up, hurting your back or your arms and stuff like that. So watch a couple of our videos here online, talk with some people who live in your area, so you can get a little bit of technique down. And then the other thing, when you go out in the paddle, you go out paddling and you're new to the sport, try and go with some other people. You are on the water, so when you're on the water, it's always safer to have a couple other people around you. And then it makes it fun, too. You get to bring in the social side of things and, yeah, get to make it fun. But that's awesome that you got a Starboard. So, woo! Go you! I had a couple of other questions here. And, okay. ¿Cómo te sientes al ganar tu primera mundial, sabiendo que competizas contra muchas mejores del mundo? Ok, sí, claro, cuando ganó mi primera competencia mundial y cuando ganó la primera título mundial, me siento increíble. Hay muchos diferentes emocionados que está pasando y está un poco difícil para para procesar todo lo que está pasando en ese momento. Pero en el momento fue increíble. Pero en los días siguientes, cuando todo se pasó, cuando todo el media y cuando todo eso termina, y yo tengo tiempo para procesar qué pasa cuando ganar ese título y qué pasa cuando eh, ganar, pero también yo estoy pasando y preguntando a mí qué son las cosas que pasan para tener ese resultado, para ganar un título mundial. No es un día y no es una carrera, es muchos días de competencia y es muchos días preparando y las 10 competencias son pequeñitas en, son pequeñitas porque el tiempo cuando tú estás en la casa y tú estás entrenando son gigantes relativamente. Entonces, ese fue el momento cuando yo ganó ese título mundial. Estoy pensando sobre todas las cosas que yo hago afuera del agua y también con tipo 1 diabetes, porque yo solo tengo tipo 1 para un año cuando ganar ese título mundial. Entonces estoy muy feliz, muy emocionante, todas las cosas, porque para mí fue increíble. Para mí es como si tienes un sueño y te quieres hacer algo, tú puedes hacer algo. Y esa para mí fue, ok, la realidad. Si tienes un sueño y tú hagas el trabajo, tú puedes tener la resultado si quieres. Entonces es un momento magnífico para mi vida. Entonces, come back. We had a couple more questions, and just to recap that one, it was wondering about how I was feeling when I won my world title, and for me, I won my stand-up paddle world title a year after I was diagnosed with type 1, and so there was so many different emotions going through me because in that moment it was the most exciting, most elevated emotional experience. And then the days following, I really got to realize how much work had gone into it. And it's not just, it's not just the days competing. It's not just the days on the water that everybody else sees. It's the hours at home, and it's the hours training. And then for me, in that year, it was the hours and the frustration learning how to deal with type 1 diabetes. And it was just the biggest moment for proving to myself that when you really have a dream and you want to go for it, you can absolutely do it. And yeah, that was the biggest learning experience that I have had from winning a world title. So we'll see. Good friend here from Hawaii, Laura Clayton. We've been on a lot of trips together. She asked me, what's your favorite thing about stand-up paddling? And for me, it's exactly what I just said, friends and connection and being able to share a passion, for the water, for taking care of the things that, we love, taking care of ourselves, being able to, go out on the water, go for a paddle, and you feel good when you get off the water. And then to be able to have a conversation and share that with somebody else. Because of stand-up paddling, I've really been able to connect, with so many different people all over the world. And that's been yeah, I guess the biggest reward that I would have from stand-up paddling. And the best thing about stand-up paddling for me are all the wonderful people I've been able to connect with. Like, just reading through here, we have so many different people, who are traveling with, or not traveling, but who are joining here from so many different places around the world. And that's just so wonderful to see. So that is by far my favorite thing about stand-up paddling. Alrighty, couple more questions that we had coming in. Another one from So another really good friend of mine from Raul. He works at Starboard. You guys may have seen his live feed video about a week ago about inflatables. He's the inflatable manager, and he's an engineer for all the inflatables that everybody paddles on. So thank you, Raul. And he asked, "Are we downwinding in the gorge this summer?" And yeah, absolutely. The Gorge is such a wonderful spot. If any of you guys seen the Gorge Paddle Challenge, or if you look on my Instagram feed, you'll see a bunch of downwind videos and stuff like that. And it's an epic place to learn and to get into stand-up paddling, but also to get into downwinding. We're one of the best downwinders in the world, and when everybody comes here for the paddle challenge, it's really fun to share. So yes, absolutely, we're downwinding this summer. Hola Mark from Barcelona, and a couple more questions, and then we'll probably wrap things up. Somebody saw my Eric Hauge saw my Instagram story from last night and was wondering how many boards I have in my garage, and I'm not exactly sure, but I know that there are a lot. And there's enough, so no matter what the conditions are, I can be out in the water. And for me, that's the most important thing. I'm just going off some of the questions that we got here from the Instagram. So if you guys that are, on here want to write a couple questions, go ahead and put some of those in. See if there's a couple more questions in Spanish. We had a question. Alguien está preguntando cómo yo sabe hablar español. Y yo vivo en dos diferentes lugares. Yo vivo aquí en Oregón y también en Los Barriles, en Baja California Sur, en una parte de México. Entonces, yo fui a escuela cuando era muy chiquita, cuando empieza el kinder, y cuando empieza kinder nadie ahí hablar inglés, entonces solamente necesita aprender a hablar español para comunicar con mis amigas y mis maestras y todo así. Y entraba en kinder y fui a escuela hasta el final de secundaria. Entonces no fui a prepa ahí en México, pero todo el tiempo tengo muchos amigos que viven ahí. Cada vez cuando me regresan, nosotros hagan cosas y todo juntas. Entonces sí, yo aprendí español porque me fui a escuela ahí en México y también vive ahí. Entonces, ya. The perfect number of boards is one more than you have. I like that. That is definitely true. So everybody should go and check out the Starboard website and find that one extra board that they really need. All right, guys. Well, this has been really fun. We're going to end it with one other question. I think this is a really cool question. It says, in getting to where you are now, would you have done anything differently growing up? And for me, the simple answer is no, absolutely not. It's wonderful. Well, we have all these experiences. We have experiences that are amazing, that are off the charts, and then we have some experiences that really, frankly, are not. And that's just part of life. And we get to experience all of these different things, as we go through our daily life. And some things turn out really great, and other things really don't. But honestly, we learn so much from the things that don't turn out really great, and we make a lot of choices, and that is all part of the way that we go about, our lives, personally, professionally, with family, everything like that. So for me, I wouldn't change anything that I have done or I have experienced, because all of those experiences have built and made me the person that I am today. And that is, something that I always try and look on the bright side of. Like, sure, there's been very difficult moments, as anybody has in their life. But, you can choose to look on the negative side of things, or you can choose to look on the positive and try and learn from them and build off of them. And so that's kind of the outlook that I have always had, is like, okay, great. that one thing might have, not been the way I hoped it to go, but what can I learn from it, and how can I get better from that? And some things are just so bad that you can't really look on the bright side, but okay, you learn from that and then you move along with it. And I think that's one of the biggest things with you know everybody here, and it's important to remember that the things that we do and the things that we experience and the places we go, like, all add to the person that we are. And no, I wouldn't change anything, because those experiences have led me into the spot that I am right now. And I think that's important for all of us to remember, regardless of what we're doing. And yeah, and to share that with as many other people as we can, and just to look on the bright side, have some fun, and if there's something that you really, really want to do, go out and make it happen and do it and figure out a way that you can do that. So that's kind of my little ending note. But I wanted to say thank you all so much for joining in today. It was lovely to have so many people here with a bunch of different questions. I'm sorry if I didn't get to all of your questions, but if you want to just send me a message, either on Facebook, or you can also send me a message on Instagram, and I can get back to those. And I really look forward. I'm very hopeful that we'll all be able to get on the water together again soon. So get vaccinated, and yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you once again, Starboard, and I will see you all, hopefully, on the water very soon. See you. Bye.